We ain't got time to watch stuff 20
only
minutes at a time.
We're only just sitting on our asses half the time in our own little
half. What are you doing the other half?
That's
you walk to the fridge that often? The Office was surprisingly better than I expected.
The Office was a revolution in sitcom comedy.
The Office had a bunch of different things that went directly over my head.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to Fallingtower's Watch the First podcast, the podcast in which we watch the first episode of a show or series, and we talk about it with hilarity. Always here is comedian, writer, superstar Michael Kenyon Rosenberg.
Hey!
We also have Rico Anderson, who's an actor, stuntman, and musical theater performer.
Yay! Guess I'm the only one who's going to clap for me. When was I a stuntman? And I was a musical theater performer in high school. Who told you?
I was just
that
guessing.
counts.
Yeah.
That counts.
Hey, I'm proud of my musical theater heritage. Shoot.
I love musical theater, so you're not going to get any complaints from me. So
I sang opera. I sang operettas in high school.
What did it sound like?
Not a lot of high schools can claim that. So
Gilbert and Sullivan had Star Trek, which is kind of behind you. We can talk about that a little later. Today, what we reviewed, by the way, is The Office, the first episode, which was called Pilot.
That's original.
Yeah. And by the way, we're doing this because we're celebrating 20 years of Fallingtower. 20 years of Fallingtower. So thank you. So we're doing this.
Boys.
Watch the first. If you guys want us to watch the first episode of a series and talk about it, just say WTF Friends or WTF Altered Carbon in the comments below. WTF and whatever show you want us to see.
WTF Seinfeld.
Oh, that's a good one. We haven't done that one before. Yeah. Let's talk about it. Thanks for joining us, Rico, by the way.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, guys. It's great to be here.
Oh, beautiful. So it was The Office with Steve Carell, which was an adaptation of like a British show called like The Office or something, right?
Correct, yeah.
And we watched the first episode. Let's start with Rico. What did you think? What was your very first impression, the first 30 seconds when you started watching it? Were you like, oh, this is going to be fun? Or were you like, how long is this thing?
See, I think that I would have had a different reaction had I watched it when it first came out. But now that a lot of things has changed technology-wise and pop culture-wise, it's a lot of things are kind of like, okay, that's old. You know, it is dated. It is dated, but it's still really funny and it still holds up. That was kind of one of my first thoughts. It was a little dated, but still holds up. Steve Carell is a fool. He's got bad issues, man. He's like, but he was also like that fun boss, minus the misogyny and the racist undertones not even undertones that he threw out there, obvious racist things that he threw out. He was like that boss that for the most part would be fun if there wasn't all the other stuff that makes you go, ooh, God, why did he? Ooh, okay, so.
What did you think, Mike? Your first impression upon first watching this?
When I first watched it, like years ago, it definitely captured my interest. I've seen the pilot of The Office maybe 6 times now.
Wow.
But I've seen the whole series at least twice all the way through. Which is really like The Office is actually, you say it's dated, but it's actually, I think the only thing that's dated is Steve Carell's hairline. The Office is kind of having a renaissance right now where the younger people are getting interested in it and like watching it like on repeat over and over and over again, sometimes like 10 or 12 times the whole series through. And so it's, to me, I think that this pilot came out in 2005. Mm-hmm. The original, the British Office came out with Ricky Gervais, came out in 2001. And actually a lot of people at first were like, you're going to remake The Office? It was a little bit cringy, but
Why? Was
well,
it because
the British Office was so well received. It was like it was considered like a masterpiece of
really?
of comedy. And then it was well loved by everybody that they're like, you're going to remake this show? Like, they didn't really think it would be a success, but I feel like Steve Carell is the one that made it a success.
Do you think that maybe they felt like you couldn't like capture lightning in a bottle twice, because I'm assuming the success of it over there was like, it was huge.
Right, correct. That's what I think what they were thinking.
Maybe it was also that Ricky Gervais, they kind of thought Ricky Gervais is The Office. You can't make it and have somebody else do it. Or maybe British humor doesn't translate into American humor sometimes. And I've never seen the British Office. I'd never even really seen this Office. I saw like a couple episodes here and there, so I recognized the humor in it. I understood that it was funny. I got it. It was cool. But I was surprised by it. Like, I expected it to not be very good because sitcom pilots are notoriously not that great, especially like if you watch the first episode of Cheers or the first episode of Seinfeld or any of these things, it's not you're just like, whoa, I remember it being good. I didn't know that they started here,
Right.
But yeah, I was surprised. I actually found myself at the 9-minute mark. I was like, how long is this thing? They've packed in so many laughs already. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it's not, and I checked and it wasn't even halfway over. I'm like, how are they doing this? They're like packing so many laughs like so quickly. That first scene with the,
Steve Carell.
which looks like you're in his
office. Right?
Yeah. And that's where that first scene was. And he's like, oh, yeah, you're a scholar and a gentleman or something like that. And I knew right away, you're like, of course it's going to be a woman. And
you knew that. Right.
Because we've seen this before a million times. And so I was like, okay, well, here we go. But from there, I think after that first scene, it certainly got better for me personally.
See,
well,
that's
go ahead.
Well, no, I was just saying, I wonder like in 2005, if people thought that when they first watched it, they were just like, I already know what this next joke is going to be. I already know how this punchline is going to kick in.
I think maybe, but I mean, it's also about Steve Carell's delivery and his reaction too. I feel like that is what sells it to me.
Yeah.
He believes it. Yeah. Well, and he delivers it. I mean, he was the perfect person to kick this off. Now, Ryan, you mentioned, like with Ricky Gervais overseas, basically being The Office and people not possibly buying the idea of somebody else headlining it. I wonder, like when people watch this, I wonder what people would say and who would actually know the answer to that. Because as soon as you said that, it made me think of like, well, once upon a time.
WTF Once Upon a Time. Sorry, go ahead.
Not first episode. No, I was going to say you would think like at one point, Captain Kirk was Star Trek, and you could never see anybody represent what how Star Trek is represented with Captain Kirk. There could be no other Captain Kirk, and there never was. But you had Captain Picard, a whole new different way of doing it, and it worked. I think with The Office, and I'm saying this only seeing the pilot episode, it seemed, and obviously it's been on forever, it worked. It worked with Steve Carell's character, and he brought he was bringing, like you were saying, he was pretty much killing it. Not even the first half.
Right.
Yeah, he was bringing the fire, man. Yeah, I was like, personally, I was like, boy, this boss here. I'm like, I felt like I saw a lot of myself in that guy. I was like, if I just went off the rails, and lost all, perspective, and or was just raised, like with the silver spoon in my mouth, or with that, or homeschooled or something. I don't know, something to where I never really gained any perspective. Yeah. And I was like, shit, that could have been me, man. I could be out there just telling all these stupid jokes and everybody's like, ha ha ha. Right. And I'm like, we're so fun, right? We're all just great friends. And everybody's just like, God, does this guy even know how stupid he is?
Right.
Well, and also one thing about the pilot of the American Office, it's pretty much a testament to the British Office because it's pretty much almost a word-for-word remake of the British pilot.
Really?
Yeah.
Are there other episodes that are like that?
No, this is the only one,
Huh.
as far as I know, that they really did like an almost word-for-word. Almost. I mean, there's some stuff like I think that if I'm remembering correctly, I don't think they did the $6 million man bit in the British Office. I feel like that was maybe more geared towards an American audience, but
Interesting. Now I kind of want to see that.
So they were just basically like, look, screw it. Let's just get it out there, have people love it, then we can start really throwing our thing down in there.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's stick with what works. So.
Right. Let's just get it out there.
Thought it was a great pilot. Honestly, I was really surprised. I was like, this is a very good pilot. And we were talking about before the difference between a third episode pilot and a first episode pilot. You know, first episode pilot is like, it introduces everything. And I thought this was going to be a first episode pilot. I thought it was going to be like Steve Carell's first day on the job and he shows up and he's like, hey, we're going to have fun. And they're like, who is this new guy? And then we're introduced. And then they introduce, by the way, something that they just completely don't even address in this first episode, the camera crew. Like the fact that they're talking to a camera crew. I thought that he was going to say, hey, so we're trying out this new experimental thing where we have the camera crew just coming in and following us around. HR wants us to do this, something like that. Nope. They don't, They just go right in and they're just talking. We're like, okay, I guess. But it wasn't exactly a third episode pilot in that everything is just run-of-the-mill regular and you're just catching in the middle of the season, because there was still that one there was like a couple new elements. There was one where they say they're going to have to downsize a little bit, so that kind of created like a new element. And also there was somebody's first day named Ryan, and so you could kind of see things through his eyes as the new guy, but he wasn't really a focus. So it was still a third episode pilot, I'd say.
Kind of backtracking a little bit. One of the reasons why I mentioned being kind of dated was that one scene where Steve Carell comes in and he's like, "What's that?"
But
that's what made it funny.
No, it was great though. I loved it. But I wondered if did What's Up come around? It did come.
No,
it was before that.
Yeah, even Jim says like, "Oh, even 7 years later, that's still funny."
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay. All right. Yeah. It was great.
Yeah, and he just kept doing it. He just kept doing it.
Yeah.
No, there were so many laughs in there. It was really. Yeah. And I didn't know all the characters' name. Isn't one of the characters like John Krasinski or one of the actors or something?
John Krasinski plays Jim.
Yeah.
Jim, okay, and Jim is the guy with Pat or Pam or something, right?
Yeah, well, eventually, I mean, no spoilers.
I'm saying clearly they're creating that little lovey kissy.
Yeah, there's the old Jim Pam connection.
Now, I could tell that just right off the bat because you could tell she's unhappy. The boyfriend's a douche.
Right.
He's like
total douche.
Like she's totally like giving him the googly eyes and then she has to go and there's just that whole thing. I could tell eventually there had to have been something that went down where. Well,
it's they try to play it out for a little bit. It's a little bit of the old Sam and Diane, Ross and Rachel, where it's like, will they, won't they? But I think that only lasts like a couple seasons. But
they eventually do get together. And
spoiler, sorry, we're only talking about the first episode, but.
Well,
right. I liked it where Steve Carell. I don't know why, but when Steve Carell, when the boss lady walks in and says we're gonna have to downsize, and he goes, "Downsizing is a bitch, a real bitch," right to her face.
Me no likey downsizing.
Yeah. I was looking at him like, oh god.
He just kept saying shit. That was too much.
An office runs on smooth communication. Pam, where's that fax? I put it in the special file that's the garbage can that you said was for faxes.
Yeah.
There was definitely does she end up being like more of one of the main characters? Like, because she seemed like she was pretty much like the second main character, but I thought like Fish Boy was the second main character.
Well, it's an ensemble cast. I mean, obviously Steve Carell is like the main character for most of the series until he ends up leaving. Spoilers, sorry to tell you. Then it's like
Close your mouth, Brian.
Dwight and Jim and Pam, but then even some of the other people, like the people back in accounting, the other sales staff, like they all kind of become part of the main cast. But I guess originally it was Michael, Dwight, Jim, and Pam, which were like the main cast, and Jan too.
Okay.
Who's Jan?
She was the lady from corporate that showed up to.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Just deliver the news about downsizing.
The other redhead.
So also the elephant in the room is, you guys, obviously Fish Boy is in this series. Fish Boy is, I don't know the actor's name.
Rainn Wilson.
Rainn Wilson, that's right, I did know that. So Fish Boy / Harry Mudd, he plays a character named Dwight Schrute. And Fish Boy is, I fell in love with him in Rob Zombie's A House of a Thousand Corpses. He was one of the characters, and no spoilers there, but if you've ever seen House of a Thousand Corpses, you know who Fish Boy is, and it's him. It's Rainn Wilson. And so when I saw him in this role, I was like, hey, it's good to see Fish Boy back. He made it. And then he's also Harry Mudd in Star Trek Discovery.
Right.
Very brilliantly cast in that.
I think he does. He plays a great. As Dwight, he plays a great Dwight too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's great as Harry Mudd also.
Yeah, most definitely.
When you see him as Harry Mudd, do you go like, whoa, it's Dwight? Or do you say, whoa, it's Fish Boy?
Obviously, I say Dwight. I mean.
When I see him, I just go, oh, that's that guy from The Office. Because if anything, I knew he was from The Office.
Right.
You go, it's Harry Mudd.
Yeah. It's
There's a pretty funny meme where it's like Rainn Wilson's like tweeting or something like that. And he says, this person comes up to me and says, hey, you're Dwight. I'm the biggest Office fan. And he's like, okay, well, what's my name? And he's like, well, obviously you're not the biggest Office fan.
And walks away.
Pretty good.
Like, what? Leaves him hanging.
He goes,
leaves him looking at the camera. Yeah.
It's Fish Boy, right? No.
I got a observation / question that so with The Office, there's a documentary crew there, and they're the biggest thing that not the biggest thing, but one of the things that you see when you watch the show is they're interacting like two people would, and then every now and then they'll peek at the camera, they give like a quick
right.
I've noticed that, and tell me which came first, did
chicken
or the egg, because Modern Family does that too, and they don't have like a document, they don't have a camera crew, but they'll have an interaction and then they'll look at the camera. And so there'll be times when they do it. Plus, they break the fourth wall, like they do here on the show. And but I'm wondering if Modern Family lifted that from The Office, because I think
Modern Family was after The Office.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure that they did. The Office, kind of like I had said in the intro, they kind of revolutionized sitcom comedies just because of this whole mockumentary style
and single cam style. Yeah.
Right.
Which actually, if you think about it, comes from like a lot of the early reality shows where, like Real World, where they're talking, and then the confession booth is like, I hate this one. You know what I mean?
Right.
They just go into like talking to, which is very documentary, in this case, mockumentary-ish.
Right.
So
I've never seen Modern Family though. Is that the one with Al Bundy?
Yeah.
Nice.
You've never seen my episode
Modern
of Modern Family?
Yeah, WTF Modern Family. I feel like I watched one episode of Modern Family, and there was a guy that was like protesting by sitting in a tree or something like that.
Hey,
he was just
Brian?
sitting in a tree and refused to leave. I think that maybe they're going to cut down the tree, and this was his way of protesting.
Brian?
Yeah.
If there's one episode of Modern Family you should see, it's called Go Bullfrogs.
Is that the first episode? Because we only watched the first episode of things.
Son of a biscuit. I wasn't in the first episode. I was in the episode called Go Bullfrogs.
Oh, congratulations, Rico
All right, good job.
Anderson. Why, thank you. So, listen, watch the first episode of Modern Family.
And then skip to Bullfrogs.
Right, skip right.
So
all will be explained in,
Which bullfrog did you play?
Listen, that's not important. The important thing is the joke falls on me. I get the funny.
Oh,
Nice.
finally.
And as actors, we always want to get the funny, especially in comedies where the funny usually goes to the star.
I liked seeing you in the Mick. That was really fun. Wait a minute, we need to be talking about this later. Let's
I
focus
wasn't in the first episode of the Mick, but anyway.
Let's focus
watch me
on
in
the
Mick.
task at hand.
We digress.
So Fish Boy, Pam, and Jello. That's pretty much what this episode's about, right?
Well, and then the temp shows up. Ryan the temp.
Oh, he was a temp. I didn't know that. I just knew it was his first day.
Yeah.
I did think it was funny when they were playing with puns. And, he put his Jello thing and whatever thing in the Jello, and then Ryan the temp even makes a joke too, and he's like, "Yes!" And he
put him in custardy.
Yeah, he's like, this guy's really gonna make it. He's one of us.
And then Steve Carell is just like, something pudding.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of something with pudding.
Yeah, but that's lifted straight from the British Office. Also, that whole scene.
Now, the building that they, I think they actually shoot this in an actual office building, because I think it's the same studio building location where they did My Name is Earl.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember auditioning for My Name is Earl, and it was in that same area. And because, they do, from the clips that I've seen, they do a lot of scenes of The Office, like in the parking lot and stuff like that.
So
too.
the pilot of The Office was actually filmed at a different location, but then you can see behind me is like their main location. It's in Van Nuys off of Satakoy. And yeah,
Really?
one of my first dates with my wife is I took her there, and we
Okay.
we said they were still filming at that time, so you could see this Dunder Mifflin sign. You could see Dwight's Camaro out front.
Why was it called Dunder Mifflin? What's the reason behind that?
There was two guys named Dunder and Mifflin, Robert Dunder and something Mifflin, and then
they produced it.
No, they started the Dunder Mifflin Paper Company. They just came up with the name, I think, because in the British Office it's got a different name, and I don't remember what it is, but it's a different paper company.
Hmm.
Oh, that's the company of where they work.
Right, Dunder Mifflin Paper Company.
Dundercats. Ho. So, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, I was definitely surprised at how good it was. Because, again, sometimes sitcoms don't do too well in the first episode. And a lot of times they are dated, like you say, Rico. Like, if you ever watch Friends again, you're like, every once in a while, you're like, it's kind of homophobic, dude, or that was kind of that's a little. Did they just say something racist, like little shit like that, But I liked the humor. I thought it was funny, and it is hard to make a lovable asshole or a lovable bigot or a lovable idiot. It's kind of treading on thin ice there, where it's like that's probably why they're like it might only work if it's Ricky Gervais, but Steve Carell clearly was able to pull that off. Yeah.
He bangs it out of the park, and so there's definitely a lot of Michael Scott, which is Steve Carell's character. There's definitely a lot of Michael Scott. It's very cringy, but they definitely do make him lovable, and that's like not only a testament to the writing, but also to Steve Carell.
Who's the better Michael Scott? Is it Ricky Gervais or Steve Carell?
Ricky Gervais plays a character named David Brent. So they're different characters, but I think
he plays the boss of The Office.
He,
right?
he plays the boss, but I think that's one of the good things about Steve Carell is he brought his own thing to the character. And personally, I mean, I think that Michael Scott is the funnier character, but there's more of him as well. Like the British Office only went for 2 seasons, and then there was like a holiday special.
Now, didn't Ricky Gervais's? I know he made like a teleconference appearance on an episode of The Office.
Right, he did a cameo.
Was he playing himself?
Yeah, he was playing David Brent. He was playing the David Brent character, and it was hilarious to see them both meet, and they had a funny exchange. And I think David Brent says something like, "That's what she said," and that's like,
yeah,
that's a total Michael Scott. I mean, if you watch more of The Office, and I hope you do, That's What She Said is totally Michael Scott's humor. It's that kind of childish.
Oh, he's the only one, huh, Mike?
Well, that's what she said.
Yeah. They would really plug a lot of those jokes, or a lot the fact that he says that a lot.
Right.
Steve Carell's character says that a lot.
They like to plug it a lot.
That's what she said.
There we go.
I was going to say something and I forgot.
Feel free.
Thanks, Michael King and
Sorry.
And then when another line while you're thinking about that he said was, she said something about discipline. I think it was the boss lady. And then Michael Scott goes, ooh, discipline, kinky. What? Where the hell did that come from? I thought this is what I realized about it. What made it so funny, at least in the pilot, that the situation, sitcoms are situational comedy, right? Mm-hmm. There weren't a lot of funny situations. It wasn't about the situations. It was more about the lines, like the one-liners and the deliveries of, from the characters. Because like the situations were like, okay, Pam is being put in a weird position where he asks her, but that's like a 5-second situation. Right. Sitcoms are usually like, the horse trainer now goes to a place where they slaughter horses. And it's the entire episode of him dealing with that, it being in a funny situation. Whereas this wasn't really a funny situation. It was just like funny line after funny line after funny line after funny line.
I think that's one of the ways that The Office kind of revolutionized it. It's like, let's just put them in an office. That's where they're just going to be in an office doing everyday office things. It's just going to be about the characters.
Would you guys say that Steve Carell's character kind of follows along the lines of, so there are rules in comedy in terms of the different types of characters. Mm-hmm. And one of the characters that is mentioned is the lovable loser.
Yeah.
And I wonder in terms of Steve Carell's character, I don't know if I'd necessarily say he was a lovable loser, but he's definitely falling in that loser category that, like it's almost like he's himself, but to other people it may look like, oh, you're just trying way too hard and nobody can really latch on to you because you just never seem to be able to, bait the fish in some ways. You can never like get anybody. You can never really
hang on. Bake the fish?
Bait, not bait.
Oh, baked the fish. Bait. I was like, what is this, some kind of Creole saying I've never heard of?
With chives and
catfish.
Right. No, just being able to, like, the lovable loser would be kind of like Joey from Friends.
Right.
So like he's.
I would say Chandler more than Joey, because Joey actually is not really much of a loser.
Well, have you heard about the lonesome loser?
He's more of an idiot.
Yeah. I would say that's a pretty good observation about Michael Scott, because he is definitely a lovable loser. And as the show progresses, you see more about how he is a loser. And it's actually kind of sad at some points, but then also it's funny too. So.
They tap into his humanity, a very special.
Yeah.
Remember those episodes of every comedy, a very special. Punky Brewster, it's like.
Where Punky Brewster tries crack.
Right.
I can do a Punky Brewster impression. Ready for it? Henry!
They're bringing it back, right?
And then you go, hello, Punky. Oh, Henry!
They're bringing the show back.
I'm bringing with Cherry.
They're apparently doing like a reboot or a continuation. Hell, they're bringing back Saved by the Bell.
Are they bringing back Soleil Moonfry and like the actual actors from before?
Yeah. From what I understand, she's on board. I mean,
that's cool.
The dad, I think, passed away since.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh, Punky.
Yeah. They're gonna do something with her. I don't know. Obviously.
That's cool. And what was the other one you said?
Saved by the Bell.
Oh yeah.
Oh, back.
It's Saved by the Bell, but it's in an office.
Mario Lopez can still play like a 17-year-old. he's still all set.
He still looks very baby-face-ish, yeah. But Mark Gosselaar apparently.
But there's gonna be no Lisa Turtle and no Screech, no Dustin Diamond, and
no, especially no Dustin Diamond.
Why?
He did porn.
I don't know. I don't watch Saved by the Bell porn, Rico. I don't know who's been in and who hasn't.
All I'm saying is,
Mr. Belding joke. Here we go.
Mr. Belding's done porn. I didn't say Saved by the Bell XXX.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, anyway,
Ryan, I want to know what you thought of Michael Scott's friend Todd Packer, who calls up while he's in the meeting with Jan.
Okay,
that was a funny scene.
First, WTF Saved by the Bell. If you guys want us to see Saved by the Bell,
or Punky Brewster.
Punky Brewster, that'd be funny.
Now that's a bad first episode. First episode of Saved by the Bell.
So. Really? Okay, we definitely got to see it.
Then. They haven't really found their niche yet, and it's one of those things where they the Saved by the Bell that we know today is not how it started off.
Boy, oh boy, I can't wait.
So sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Go.
That's okay. Your question was about his. Oh, now I remember who that guy was. Glad I wasted time there to remember. I bought myself some time, but I do know what you're talking about. You're talking about when the guy's like, he calls in and he's like, "Oh, are you with what's her name?" Or what did he call? What did he call her? First he said like, "Hey, you big gay lord," or what did he say? Queen. He said, "Hey, you big queen." On speakerphone. And then he called the woman something, the boss lady. What did he call her?
I forget.
But then he said something like, "Do the carpets match the grave?"
And he's like, "Oh, that's not a very good thing to say at all."
Okay.
Yeah.
She's from HR, so it's just like, okay.
Oh yeah, he says Godzilla. He called her Godzilla. and then when Michael Scott was, they asked him kind of like, are you going to tell your coworkers or your employees, about what's going on? And he's like, no, I'm not going to tell them that. As a doctor, you would not tell your patient he has cancer.
Yeah.
And these are the kind of lines where you really get what the character is. Like, he's just fucking clueless. You can't get mad at him because he's just like completely in his own world.
My heroes, Bob Hope, Abraham Lincoln, Bono. It's like
probably
God would be the fourth one.
Probably God. After Bob Hope, of course.
It's really, it's hard to sum up. It's really incalculable.
I do think that there's got to be a running joke later on. I don't think they just introduced this for the first episode, but assistant regional manager and assistant to the regional manager, which is a very important distinction there. Right. Do they talk about that more in further episodes?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I thought so. Yeah.
See, that's another thing in comedy where I guess that running joke throughout an episode. How it would always, because they said that a few times throughout.
Right.
But you're saying it lasts a few episodes.
Make sure to put him in his place. Like he's like, I'm assistant to the regional manager. Assistant to the regional manager.
Yeah, I like it. That's really good. And it also seems like his character got bigger later on because I felt like he was one of the main characters.
Oh yeah.
When I saw like later episodes, but when I saw this thing, he was more like just. Like a secondary, kind of like a Cliff Clavin in Cheers, where Cliff was kind of like a secondary or tertiary character, but then he became a little bit more into the mainstream.
Well, just because he wasn't even supposed to be on the show, or
who?
Cliff Clavin. He actually talked his way into the show, talked his character in the show.
WTF Cheers.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to see that because I remember a long time ago seeing the first Cheers episode and being like, "Oh God, was it really this fucking bad?"
It really was. Yeah, I watched it like a year ago.
I remember thinking it was so dark, like the lighting was so dark, and I'm like, I can't even watch this. But this was a long time ago, so maybe it'd probably be even worse now. But anyway.
But I tell you, 90s comedies though, they're some of the best. It's some of the best comedy ever produced.
Like Seinfeld. Well, that's the thing is they didn't pull the trigger. They didn't get the hook out nearly as quickly. So if a show sucked for the first episode or season or 2 seasons or 3 seasons, sometimes they still kept it going.
Yeah,
and it got better eventually. Whereas now it's like you got just a few episodes.
Well, after they shot this pilot of the Office, they still didn't know. They weren't picked up yet or anything like that, and it wasn't. they got picked up later, and they finished out the first season, which is only 6 episodes. And even
really?
even then they didn't know that they were picked up yet.
Wow.
So
yeah, it was like a great experiment, because at the end of the day, they were just like, is this going to work? Is this thing that's been successful overseas going to actually fly here in the States? Are people going to buy this?
And some of the actors were still working as like waiters and like.
Yeah, it was a great experiment. That literally did change a lot of how we see. I mean, seriously, I think there would not be a Modern Family if not for how the Office did what they did, because
and then you wouldn't have had your role as a bullfrog or whatever it was.
Okay, I was the campus security. See, you got to stop letting Ryan pump ideas in his head. That one plays the title of said episode.
Yeah, who played Jeremiah?
Oh, that was played by
Jeremiah was a bullfrog.
See, he knows it. He got it. I did another one that you missed. I said, "Have you heard about The Lonesome Loser?" But neither of you
I
jumped
heard
on.
it, but I just
You just rolled your eyes and moved on.
Address it.
Where's that from?
That's a song.
I know, but I'm trying to. It's like right there. I'm trying to remember what it is.
Well, you were talking about the Lonesome Loser,
Lovable Loser.
Lovable.
No, I know, but what's the song? I know it. I just can't.
I think
Who
it's called.
sings it? Yeah, I'm trying to remember who sings it though.
Billy Joel song?
No.
It sounds like maybe an Eagles song or something.
Have you heard about the Lonesome Loser? Yeah.
Isn't that Foreigner?
Nope.
He's a loser that I really could have it. It'd be great if we had a piece of technology that could offer.
If only, yeah.
Oh, Little River Band.
I was about to ask my computer. I was about to go computer
I was just about to say Little River Band.
Sure you were, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg.
So here's a question for Michael, since you've seen more than the first episode. Is Michael Scott pretty much everybody's favorite character, or most people's?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so then the question we have to go with is, besides Michael Scott, who was your favorite character in this first episode?
Wait.
Dwight?
The first episode, yeah.
His name should be Dwight.
Yeah, probably Dwight, still even in this first episode.
What about you, Rico? I know. We ask the tough questions.
No, you guys really don't give a person a chance to breathe here.
You should have known it was coming next when he asked me.
You think I know format by now.
I mean, they're all right here. You could just pick one.
I'm actually looking. Yeah.
You can just point at somebody.
Yeah, I liked what our homeboy I almost called him Bubble Boy.
Fish Boy. Bubble Boy is Seinfeld too.
Yeah. Yeah, I like what he was doing. I could see the beginnings of like some really wacky shit about to go down with this guy, like, potentially going down in future episodes.
Oh, he gets crazy, man. He's a great character.
Yeah, you can totally see how they were setting him up, for stuff, in terms of
1978 Camaro. I bought it for $1,200, fixed it up. It's now worth $3,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's my favorite too, besides Michael Scott. It's like Michael Scott and everybody else, you know what I mean? Right. They all had funny lines, but they didn't add a ton to make it funnier. They didn't get a mediocre line and deliver it hilariously. They just got a funny line and delivered it well. Right. But I will say that Dwight is like the character in Superstore. What's her name? I don't know if you guys ever watched Superstore.
Dina?
Yeah, Dina. Totally similar. I mean, but it is because like one of the producers or writers of The Office was the one that started Superstore. So you could see the similarities there.
WTF Superstore?
Yeah, WTF Superstore.
There's a lot of firsts here you guys can really tap into.
But they got to tell us in the comments below, otherwise we can't do it.
Yeah, down there, folks. There are my fingers. Okay. Hey, Michael, I have a question for you since you've seen The Office 200,000 times.
Yep.
If there was a character that they asked you to pick to be a part of a spinoff of the show with the same character, as the same character, what character would you choose for a spinoff?
I mean, I would love to see a Michael Scott spinoff because he does leave the show at one point.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's hard to get a lead. A main character doesn't usually get a spin-off to be a main character in another show. It's usually
they'll call it Scott, like Picard. The Office, Picard.
Office. There you go. There you go. The Office, Scott.
Yeah. What about you, Rico? I don't know enough about the characters to really pick one to do a spin-off.
Me neither. I wouldn't.
Do you think Michael Scott is a funny enough character to where they could do a full sitcom about him and his home life, like outside of work, him and his wife or his kids or his gardeners or whatever it is?
If it was Modern Family-ish, like in terms of not necessarily those type of characters, but like various types of personalities like that, I could see it. It would actually be pretty interesting to see that. Because,
What? What about you, Mike? Do you think that they'd be able to do a spin-off with Michael Scott at home?
Absolutely, yeah.
It would be called The House or whatever.
The Michael Scott House.
They could totally do that.
What would it be like in your mind?
Well, without giving away too much, it would just be hilarious. I mean,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought they actually did that already. You didn't want to give any spoilers.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's like I really want you guys to watch the rest of the show. So
but isn't it like 10 seasons or something?
It's only 9 seasons, Ryan, and Michael Scott leaves after 7 seasons. So.
Yeah, but it's like 23 episodes per season, isn't it?
Oh, it's only 6 episodes in the first season.
That's the first season, Michael.
I would commit to maybe watching the first season. Maybe. But like, dude, it's busy during these lockdown times. We ain't got time to watch stuff 20 minutes at a time.
We're only just sitting on our asses half the time in our own little
half. What are you doing the other half?
That's
you walk to the fridge that often?
Listen. Me and the dining room and my bathroom have a very solid relationship.
Speaking of which, let's talk about you for a little while, Rico Anderson. What do you say? So, hey, Rico, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us, by the way. Your name's Rico E. Anderson. What's the E stand for, by the way?
That's
a Y.
Huh? So the E stands for many things, but my middle name is Elliot. Elliot.
Ah, great.
Short story behind it. There was an old TV show called The Untouchables, starring Robert Stack, and my mom was a huge fan of the show. Elliot Ness, yeah. And but there was a character on there named Rico. And like whenever Robert Stack's character would get like a call, there's something going on over at the train station or whatever, he'd be like, John, Robert, Rico, let's go. And my mom, according to the story, my mom was sitting up there pregnant with me. And she was like, Rico, that's a lovely name. If I have a boy, I'm going to name him Rico. If I have a girl, I'm going to name him Melissa.
Melissa. That's cool.
My name is Melissa. No, so my name is Rico. And my middle name is Elliot.
Rico, Melissa, Elliot.
Wasn't Robert Stack the guy that was like on Rescue 911 or something like that? Like
he did like the documentaries of
like something in like the 80s or 90s.
Yeah. Anyway. He was also an Airplane too. Remember that? He was like He was the guy that they called in to basically fix everything.
But here's my question for you, Rico. You're an actor. What got you into that?
I've been told. I've been wanting to act ever since I was a kid. Literally, I would see TV shows where I wouldn't see a whole lot of Black folks on it, but when the ones that I saw, I was very much like, wow, it's cool to see me. It's cool to see representations of me in different lights, and I loved watching it. I always loved watching TV, but I always told myself I would love to do what they're doing. It just seemed like so much fun. And I remember seeing this touring production of The Wiz and loving that, and loving the dancers. Stephanie Mills started it, R&B legend Stephanie Mills. And I remember seeing from her to the dancers and just going, wow, I love seeing these people on stage dancing, singing and acting and doing all this stuff. So eventually I knew one day I wanted to move to Hollywood to be, at the time, a movie star. And eventually, and this is when we were living in Chicago. Eventually we moved to Northern California, and I did a lot of theater, a lot of independent film, and just working my way up towards moving to LA. And, you know, it's always been in my head ever since I was like 7 that I wanted to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were a kid, you looked up watching TV, you didn't see a lot of black actors, and you're black, I think, right?
Yeah, I've been told.
And growing up as a 7-year-old black child in Chicago and then later on in Berkeley, Alameda?
In Berkeley, starting in Berkeley.
Only Berkeley. Okay. Was there ever any roles where you're like, I just really want to play a cop someday, or a judge, or a bad guy, or an alien, or was there anything like that?
I've always wanted to play like firemen and doctors and
Heroes
characters. Yeah, and you know, loving sci-fi and comics ever since I was a kid. I mean, I've literally been a nerd ever since I was a little boy. You know, the thing about nerds is we all have that brain as a child, because we've all played with different toys and we've all watched cartoons and stuff. The only difference is some of us still grow, you know, when we grow up, we still retain that love of it, and that love of comics and sci-fi and pew pew space and all that kind of stuff.
Pew pew pew.
Yeah, and so
you didn't know that Mike does good impressions of laser guns.
Yeah,
I've heard your work on various sci-fi shows. And I have to say, big fan. So, but yeah, I just always wanted to play that. But I've always wanted to play superheroes. I've always wanted to do sci-fi.
Damn, you haven't done a superhero yet, right?
Not played that superhero yet.
Damn, that'd be cool.
It's coming.
You should.
It's coming. Wait for it. I said I wanted to do sci-fi, and here we are.
Tell us about your sci-fi experiences.
It was luckily enough to do a project that really kind of changed a big portion of my career in terms of doing sci-fi, and which was actually right here behind me, Star Trek Renegades. It's backwards, but
no, it's we see it right.
You do? Oh, okay. To me, I see it backwards. Anyway, this character right here is Boros, the one of the bad guys in Star Trek Renegades. Was really blessed to get that cast directly by Mr. Tim Russ, who directed Star Trek Renegades, who reprised his role as Tuvok from Voyager. From that, worked on Horizon with Mr. Husk here, worked on Fifth Passenger, worked on a variety of different other shows, got cast in the Orville, I believe.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, the fact that I could do prosthetics, and hopefully because I was a good actor, you know, and just really been able to tap into a lot of different genres in terms of that ball rolling even more, and made lifelong friends as a result of it, and you know, had some great relationships come out of it, and touring like you and I have done, Ryan, to different sci-fi
conventions.
Yeah, and it's been a great other door that has opened in terms of this business that we're in that has so many different levels of it. One can go the comedy route, the dramatic route, the sci-fi route. You could be more in voiceover. You could be more on the writing side, on the producing. You know, there's so many different avenues, and so many different hats you can wear.
Mike, have you seen the Orville?
I have. Yeah, I saw the episode that Rico was in.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I'm hoping. I mean, hey, your character didn't die, so you can always come back. Or I mean, more likely, if you have makeup all over you, you can come back as another character.
As anything.
Right.
Or the same alien, different character kind of thing. You know, it'd be fun to be a Mocklin again, right?
I would love to. Actually, I have a buddy, Antonio D. Charity, who was in the same episode as me on the Orville. He played basically the lawyer in the the whole scene. They're it's possible that they may be bringing some characters back, because we have a buddy who was also in it as well. Forgot who he played. He was one of the
Your best friend, yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, who could forget old best pal?
But not anymore because of this episode. So yeah, you just I'm hoping that they bring him back. But yeah, like you said, with prosthetic, just like in Star Trek, they how many people have played various
Jeffrey Combs, he played like 9 different people, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Doug Jones has made a career out of playing different people in prosthetics too. So
yeah, that's almost a shocker when you see him actually without prosthetics.
Right.
Because he's gorgeous, right?
He's a heartthrob. So.
Yeah. So we only have a couple minutes left, Rico, but are you working on anything right now that we could go check out?
Well, I was. And then the unfortunate coronavirus kicked in and halted a lot of productions. Once everything is lifted and life does return to normal, I will be shooting SWAT. I don't know if it's going to end up being the season finale like it was originally planned, but I'm scheduled to bring back a character that I actually shot 2 years ago, which is young Daniel. For people who watch SWAT, young Daniel, the character of Daniel is basically Shamar Moore's father on the show. So I'm the younger version of his character. The current version of that character is played by Oba Babatunde, and he's a brilliant actor, singer, dancer. So I'll be shooting that. I am going to be shooting a baseball film about the Negro Leagues, specifically about Ernie Banks.
No way.
It's called
That's
On
so cool.
Dirt, starring myself and as Buck O'Neill, who was the manager of the Kansas City Monarchs. That's going to be shot in Atlanta. The main star attached, couple of main stars attached, is Louis Gossett Jr. and Andy Garcia.
Wow.
So that's
Andy Garcia is not playing one of the players, right?
No, I believe he might be one of the owners. I'm not really sure. I don't know.
That's really cool. When does it take place?
It takes place during, I believe, the 40s, when the Negro Leagues were still happening. And for people who don't know, basically, in a nutshell, the Negro Leagues were formed because black baseball players weren't allowed to play in the major leagues. So they formed the Negro League so they could play. And the major leagues saw how amazing a lot of them were. And
they're like, maybe we should reconsider this.
Yeah. We should rethink this wacky thought that black people shouldn't play in the major leagues.
Hey, see, these guys actually play pretty good.
Right.
Yeah,
bring him in. Yeah. So that's how we got like Jackie Robinson. He was like the face of that crossover actually happening. But there were a lot of other players who they say were even better than Jackie Robinson, but he was like the poster child. He had the look, he had the, just the personality. He just was the face of that representation. Ernie Banks was another representative of it. He was an amazing player. Buck O'Neill, the character that I play, was an amazing coach who eventually was the first black player to get drafted into the major leagues as a scout. For the, I believe, the Chicago Cubs.
Damn, that is really fun, dude. I didn't know that. Yeah. And so you're going to be shooting that in Georgia when this all settles down, huh?
Yeah. Technically, it was supposed to probably would have been going down right now, but at this point, depending on what happens, it will probably be sometime in the summer.
Summer in Georgia, huh? Oh, boy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. We'll see. But anyway,
yeah. So we'll give everybody your social media stuff down below in the comments. Sorry, not in the comments, but in the description box, so they can check you out. And
appreciate
any final thoughts on that, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg?
Well, we'll give you your social media, your date of birth, social security number, all that good stuff.
Oh, your driver's license number too.
Oh, don't forget that. Yeah.
They're not going to get anywhere without that.
Make sure they get my PIN number so they can get my $1,200 stimulus check.
Oh yeah.
From the government.
So anyway, to put a button on this episode of Watch the First, The Office pilot. We like to close it out by saying this podcast was kind of like how we do it at the beginning with this episode was. So I'll start with that. But before I do, would you, Rico, would you watch this again? Would you watch the second episode or the third episode of The Office?
I would. They set up a couple of things that makes me want to see how it will slowly play out. The little budding potential romance that's happening. The continuation of how ridiculous Steve Carell's character is. And just to see where things are going with everything and everybody. But yeah, I could see myself checking out the next one just to see what progresses.
Michael,
I recommend it.
Well, obviously, I've seen.
But here's the thing with you. I know your tricks.
But,
so you've seen it 5 times, let's say, all the way through, or whatever.
No, I've seen it all the way through twice. I've seen the pilot maybe 6 times.
Watching this pilot now, does it make you want to watch the next 2 or 3 episodes again, or are you like, I'm good, I'm full?
It does. I definitely am interested in seeing it again. And one thing I'll say also is, if you're going to watch it now, because it's only on Netflix until January 2021. At which point it goes to NBC starting their own streaming service called Peacock. And so they're going to steal it away from Netflix, say, give us our show back so we can show it. Because it is actually it's the #1 watched show on Netflix for
really?
For the last few years.
Interesting.
Oh,
Okay.
you're right about that resurgence then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The kids these days are like, whoa, this show's funny.
Hey.
Who knew? Check out this new gem I found.
Yeah. Well, I guess Billie Eilish is a big fan.
Okay.
And she, even one of her songs, she has clips from one of the episodes.
That's all it takes,
Yeah.
man.
She's a huge influence.
Yeah.
And that could literally flip the script right there. Literally.
I'll be honest, I'm not easily swayed, but I want to watch the next, at least the next episode. Maybe I'll watch the first season. What I don't want is then to get hooked and have to watch 9 seasons of something. There's just no way I got time for that.
Sorry.
Which could happen.
But I wouldn't turn it off if somebody put on the second episode. I'd be like, okay, I'll check it out. I'll see what happens.
Go watch it.
I was like that and I'll just say WTF, Breaking Bad. I was like that with Breaking Bad.
That's a perfect, if not near perfect pilot.
Yeah. I was that Breaking Bad was already 2 seasons in and I had not seen it. And somebody said, watch the first episode. You watch the first episode, I guarantee you'll end up wanting to catch up.
Watch the first minute. You watch the first minute and you'll be like, okay, I got to see what's going on.
Right. I'm about to have no life until this thing is.
I just watched it for the first time like a year ago, or maybe 2 years ago too.
Yeah.
Anyway,
love it.
So what I'm trying to say is that this podcast was illuminating, and it made me want to dive deeper into The Office.
And I will say that this podcast is what she said.
I will say that this podcast was a great hangout for a couple of buds and talking about
Michael.
something and Michael, and made me want to made me want to check out more.
Okay, let's do it.
It was a great introduction to it.
Nice.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Congratulations on 20 years, you said?
Yeah.
20 years, yep.
Thanks very much.
Congratulations. That's really cool.
Thank you.
We're going to try to keep it up.
That's what she
There
said.
we go. Anyway, for Rico E. Anderson, thanks for joining us. Everybody at home, thank you so much for joining us for 20 years of Falling Tower. If you want us to watch something and talk about it, Just say WTF and whatever that series is in the comments below, even if it's a web series, whatever it is, we'll check it out. And until next time, we need like a catchphrase at the end. Until next time, whatever.
That's the thing that we did.
There we go. Until
What
next time. Until next time, that's all that is here.
That certainly was, wasn't it?
That's what you said or wrote.
All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.